Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show. Here's your host, Paul Winkler.
And welcome. This is the Investor Coaching Show, the last Investor Coaching Show
for the year.
Oh, you just ruined it. Ira.
For the year.
Ira worked with me, of course, and Evan Barnard. It is the last Investor Coaching Show for the year. Yeah, we don't want it to be the last Investor. Do you guys realize?
No.
Yes.
Maybe.
Going on 23 years.
Yes.
23 years.
On the radio? Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, you know what? Tomorrow is going to be a big day for? Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
We were talking about this at home.
Weddings.
Yep.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Did you guys saw that, right?
I saw that,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's our anniversary
Huge.
anyway.
Huge, yeah.
Oh yeah, I have another friend whose anniversary is
30 years this year.
30 years.
Sir.
Well, 30's got a 3 in it,
Yeah.
which is if we play a waltz, it's in 3/4, right?
There
One,
you
2,
go.
3, 1, 2, 3. You guys do a waltz, for
We're set.
for your anniversary because it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there you go. It is going to be a big day in Las Vegas, is what they're saying.
Yep.
It's like one of the biggest days. They said it's one. It is, and I think it is going to be the biggest day. I think
At least for weddings, yeah.
that they have ever had is what they were saying. It's going to be the biggest day for weddings that they have ever had. They said that there are all kinds of people cashing in on this. But they had like in 2007, you had 7 of 7. I got a lot of people. July 7th of 2007, a lot of people got married. 4,500 couples were married in what became the Lucky Sevens Day in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then the second most popular was 11/11 of 2011.
I was going to say November 11th of 2000.
Yeah, there you go. So they're looking at another big day in Las Vegas tomorrow. And they've got these people out there selling packages.
Yeah.
The 12/31/23 package, they're selling it for $2,024. That's pretty creative. Yeah, they're selling. The idea is that you get a limousine ride, wedding planner, photo shoot, and a cider toast.
Cider toast.
Cider toast.
Oh,
They're
I
gonna-
guess
they're gonna
like apple
toast you with
instead
cider.
of champagne, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of toast, it was a guy that came up with avocado toast passed away. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Who would ever thought
I
of
saw the
having
creator
avocado?
of the Glock passed away this past week.
Creator of the Glock?
Yeah, he passed away.
No
He's an
kidding.
Austrian engineer, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know much
And
about
I think
that.
he was like 94, something
Okay.
like that.
All right. Well, so it's and then the next date that there's somebody else is saying that's going to be too crowded on 1-2-3, so she's going to get married on 2/4 of 24. And she's going to wait a couple months. Maybe she's got to think about it first.
Is Vegas making the odds on the success percentages of these weddings on
I have New
Year's Eve?
I have not seen that. So it has been an interesting year. Haven't you been talking to your son about it? And
Yeah,
I'm sure
it has. We've been chatting
He has
home.
he has a nice little list of things.
We did, yeah. We went through a few things, and some stuff I just had totally forgotten about. I mean, it's a function of the news cycle now that there's so much coming on that I had failed to remember several pretty good sized stories.
So there were a
just
lot of
out of sight,
predictions.
out of mind.
There were a lot of predictions for the year. And I think it's interesting because one of the things that I've talked about on the show over and over and over again, how the experts can't seem to predict things,
Right.
right? Not so good at predicting what's going to happen next, where things are going to go, or anything like that. And there was a piece in CNBC. There was one of the anchors was talking about that very thing, the Federal Reserve and their economists. The most brilliant economist, the most educated economist out there, period, end of sentence. Check this out, guys. Here's what he said.
But I have pointed this out many times, has a terrible forecasting record. I just want to point out their GDP forecast this time last year was 0.5% for 2023.
Okay, so GDP, 0.5% is what they predicted it would be. This is the Federal Reserve, whose job is to set interest rates, right? help determine, make sure that you have full employment, make sure that the currency is stable, and that that's their mandate, their dual mandate. Now this is what they basically said: 0.5% growth in GDP, and this is what really happened.
And the actual numbers, we had 2.2% for the first quarter, 2.1, 4.9, 2.7%. They were off by orders of magnitude. They were off on the unemployment rate, too. They had 4.6%, we're 3.7. They've just been...
Now, it's not quite as bad as he's making it out to be, because he was like 2.4%, because he's annualizing all those numbers. So you take the quarter, you got to divide that by 4. So, you look at that, though. But that is a pretty doggone big percentage to be off when you have all the numbers at your disposal.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, one of the things he made a comment about, he says, this was predicted for this. And he said, then COVID happened. Talked about, several years back, of course, thankfully. We can look back and say that was several years ago. But he was looking at that and saying, they were way off. Then COVID happened. Well, but this is what happened. This is our excuse for missing our prediction because COVID happened. And his point is, but COVID happened, it's like, but 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
But, the oil crisis happened. But you can fill in the blank. There's always something that screws up your predictions.
Yep, exactly.
So, I'm curious, Evan.
Yeah.
What'd your son come up with what were some of the things that he popped out?
Yeah. So I'll start with the curveball here. The Titan submarine sank. The submarine that was looking for the Titanic, had the wealthy billionaire or whatever, and
your son would come up
with
with
that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that went down, and of course, all the news cycle. How much air do they have? How long is this going to be? All those kind of things, and of course, in the commentary on the business side, okay, it's almost like the space shuttle. What failed? Okay, what design flaws weren't we looking at? Oh, they rushed the process. I mean, you always have, just like you're talking about the economists after the fact.
Yeah.
Well, we woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And there were a lot of things about as I recall, there were a lot of things about how these people were kind of fly by the night, type of an operation anyway.
You mean the designers of the sub? Yeah.
And but
well. Yeah, I hesitate to use the term fly by night, but
I don't know much about it, but I remember that was the commentary.
Yeah, they were kind of rushing this. It was maybe an unproven. I'm not an engineer, like the polymer, the ballistic nylon shell or whatever, Kevlar almost.
Because there were a lot of wealthy people on board that thing, weren't there?
Yeah,
they were all wealthy people.
Yeah, well, there was.
Yeah,
were they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just what I recall about that one. Okay.
Yeah,
It
but
had no business going down there.
I'd totally forgotten about that story.
They had no business going down there.
I don't know.
They've been told and warned
They've been warned.
a lot of times.
Well, I mean, you look at it, the sense of adventure. People want to go out to outer space. I mean, that's just humans.
Yeah, get a robot down there.
Columbus had no place going, across the ocean.
Right.
When you were going to probably fall off the edge, but it's no guts, no glory, right?
That's it.
So what else did he come up with?
Well, let's see here.
Because the bank thing, I'm thinking about people that.
Well,
I was interviewed over.
Silicon Valley Bank was one I came up with.
Yes.
That wasn't Justin's.
Right.
You want me to run through the list or just?
I'll just come up with a couple things. We'll talk about them.
Well, the Chinese spy balloon.
Yes. You're right. That did happen this year.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
And we were actually, this kind of led
that was in the news a lot. And it's funny how quickly we forget those types of things.
And that wasn't really, that's not so much of a business event. It's not a market-related thing, but at the same time...
But it sure can affect business, seeing as, you're talking about trade between countries and whether you have trust between the countries. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
And, so that was one. And then, what was an interesting one was the popularity of two very different movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer. and how
My wife is an avid.
they both
She was an avid Barbie collector.
totally-
She just won't go.
totally different ends of the spectrum.
She won't even watch it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But Oppenheimer. Yeah. I just thinking about Oppenheimer. I haven't seen either one.
I haven't either.
I mean, I don't watch movies. You guys know me, but I think Oppenheimer, that'd be fascinating, I guess. Did you think? Ira, did you see that? Or?
No, I did not. And
Yeah.
I see a lot of movies.
Justin has seen them both, and he really loved both of them.
Did you really?
He did. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is on the business front,
Okay.
but it's kind of left the headlines. But the Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney
Yeah, I was just thinking about that
beer
one.
can debacle,
yeah.
and that's now old news. Their stock hasn't rebounded
The
much.
beer sales down 24% for Budweiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's. I guess. I guess that maybe that memory of that is holding strong with the people that
yeah.
were offended by the whole thing.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Interesting. Yeah, because it was like Nike was this big deal, right? And then all of a sudden Nike rebounded, and I don't know where Nike is. You guys even watch that? Because that was a big
I don't.
controversial
I
company.
missed that. Yeah.
And that's another example of just one of those things when we talk about investing. You don't know when something like that's going to happen.
Exactly.
To a company near you that they all of a sudden they do something that is out of step with culture in one way or another, and all of a sudden they are here today, gone tomorrow, or at least drop in value significantly. You think about Walt Disney and Disney and how that whole thing went down.
Well, and you think about not even I mean, this is news. It's a surprise. It's not like a natural disaster, but just as recent as a month or two ago, Sam Altman getting relieved, dealing with OpenAI and ChatGPT and this, power play between Microsoft and all of that. Sure. All of that stuff can happen. That whole story started and ended and changed in about 72 hours.
Well, yeah, there was actually some talk about that in the Wall Street Journal. I didn't really get through the whole article. It was talking about, will 2024 be the year that some of those cryptocurrencies that maybe they're going to be more legitimized because maybe some regulation will show up around them. And you think about it, people have been using it, quote, as an investment. And as we've talked about so many times here, it's not an investment. An investment by definition is something where you have a cost of capital, but it's been going up and down in value, and their volatility has been unreal. If some of that regulation comes to fruition, you could see some of that volatility going away. And then you could see that not that it would be a good investment at that point in time is not what I'm saying.
You could regulate ice, but it's still going to melt.
but you could see the volatility or it stabilizing more like, you think about gold is not necessarily tremendously stable by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But it has been far more stable as far as not, these wild spikes and drops that we saw with cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin particularly. And it's funny because we talk about Bitcoin all the time. Why? Because it was the one out of thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies that was the winner. It's just like anything else with stocks, right? Mm-hmm. We don't talk about a stock in glowing terms until after it's been the winner for a while. And we know, you hear all these other companies that have come and gone.
Well, I think Bitcoin was the winner primarily because it was really the first one to come out and get publicity of all of the cryptocurrencies. And then they all tend to follow them. And now there's just too many of them. And they're not currency either because there's nothing backing it. And currency doesn't fluctuate on a daily basis the way the swings of these crypto things actually fluctuate.
Well, I think it's more like, I would say it's more akin to gold, though. In essence, that gold fluctuates pretty significantly based on supply and demand because people see it as a store of value that's outside of the monetary system, unlike another currency.
But gold you can at least put in your hand.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It does have another use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, but regardless, I mean, gold, whether you use it for something else or not, like silver is probably one of the most used metals of all of them for industry. Mm-hmm. You see it in soldering and circuit boards and so forth.
It has a utility outside of just
right. But you can just hold it you can't hold cryptocurrency.
Right.
Because there's nothing there.
Are you saying this is precarious in any way?
I'm just saying. So, for example, like we have the cash, percentage of the portfolios in cash. Why? Because the dollar doesn't fluctuate up and down like a stock or a bond does. It's not sensitive to interest rates. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar. My dollar today will be my dollar next week.
Well, you have an entity that's making sure that there's stability going on there, like a Federal Reserve. And whereas, like, you look at some countries where their currency has fluctuated wildly, just because they print. And they increase the supply, and then you have hyperinflation. And,
Venezuela, anyone?
Yeah, can you say that? Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I just lost my thought. That's the only reason why the dollar for us is so stable, and why we keep a certain percentage of the portfolio in the dollar, because unlike the stocks and the fixed income, it's not going to fluctuate in value. It's the only security, if you will, that doesn't fluctuate here. Now, it does to other currencies around the world.
Right.
We can see the dollar went down compared to the pound, or the dollar went up compared to the euro. But the dollar for us is always a dollar, as opposed to, Apple dropping in value or interest rates going down, so the value of the bond goes up. The dollar is fixed for us.
Right. And it's a good point to make, Ira, just in that when you're investing and you hold bonds in your portfolio, they're there for stability. And if you do have bonds outside the U.S., and a lot of people have these things, and they don't know whether their bond funds are actually hedged against the currency risk. And that's one of the things that we're adamant about, that we have that hedging against currency risk, because you don't want that to be fluctuating.